There'll be no better time for me to make this video. I think it's very important for me to send it out right now. So, ex-President Jacob Zuma has been arrested for contempt of court. He didn't show up when he was supposed to, and the Constitutional Court found him guilty and sentenced him to 15 months in prison, and in 3 months he's going to be up for parole. He's kindly asked for a decision from the court to rescind the sentence. So I think today they're going to announce if they're taking back the sentence or not. South Africa is currently under protest. Most of the protests are in KZN. There are protests in Gauteng, and then we've heard of some protests in Limpopo, some protests in the Nelson Mandela Bay area in the Eastern Cape. A lot of people who are not Zulu obviously have issues with the fact that protests outside of KZN are being listed. And it's just a reminder of the tribalism that we have in this country. I want to point out before I go forward, guys, there are about 18 million Zulu people. Zulu people are not homogenous. Zulu people are not the same. There are Zulu people that love Jacob Zuma. There are Zulu people that love Thabo Mbeki. There are Zulu people that love Cyril Ramaphosa. There are Zulu people that love some of these guys or love all of them. Zulu people are not the same. Some Zulu people hate the taxi industry. Some Zulu people hate the IFP. Some Zulu people can't even speak isiZulu properly, or they don't follow Zulu customs. So when you do this thing of bunching all Zulu people into this one group, it leaves a very bitter taste in people's mouths, and it speaks directly to tribalism. There are so many non-Zulu people who are not Zulu, who love Jacob Zuma, who are part of the protest, who want him to be taken out. Why do people want Zuma to be taken out of prison? People want Zuma to be taken out of prison because he feels like the realest black president that South Africa has ever had. Some of the policies he was trying to change looked like they were trying to transform industries, trying to transform companies. Eskom, SAA, the SABC as examples. We could see the work that he was doing. He placed Tutumieni in charge of SAA, and she uncovered that only 3% of the suppliers there are black people. The rest are not. So transformation needed to take place, and it hasn't taken place to this day. And Pravin Gordhan, who's the minister, I think, of state-owned enterprises, has now sold SAA in a deal that looks very dodgy because it seems like it was not really advertised the way it should have been. SAA has been losing a lot of money, and the white suppliers there have always been supplying at the rates that they supply at. Same thing happened at Eskom. Everyone focuses on the Guptas, who supplied a very small percentage of the coal to Eskom. And the deal that went through, it was exposed that it wasn't the first time that a company like Eskom funds a potential service provider so that they can supply what's needed. It's very common. It was uncovered that there are so many white companies at Eskom that are supplying at extremely high prices and that have had what they call evergreen contracts from apartheid days. Evergreen means the contract will never expire. It will always be good to go. It doesn't get reviewed. This was exposed by Brian Molefe as the chairperson and Machela Koko as the CEO, who were then tainted for various things. And they may have been guilty. They may have been guilty of what they did. Machela Koko was claimed to have given his stepdaughter certain deals. These guys may have been guilty, but we are aware that there was a transformation agenda that they were pushing. Hlaudi Motsoeneng, who was at the SABC, pushed for 90% local play, which there was a pushback, which is the funniest thing ever. You're pushing back a guy who's saying, let's play local stuff. Again, he was discredited, seen as a bad person. They said there was a deal he did with SuperSport, which was apparently in bad faith. That's the person that people are fighting for. Jacob Zuma is a proud Zulu man, polygamist, with I think 4 or 5 wives and over 20 children. He loves speaking isiZulu. He loves sending videos where he is dancing, a Gita Zulu dancing, where he's drinking umqombothi, where he's eating meat with other Zulu men on the floor, and where he's seen with Amabuto, which are the warriors in the Zulu royal family and the royal army. That's Jacob Zuma. He's cracked jokes about being a black man. He's attacked white people to a point where white people marched for the first time in this country. A bunch of white people across the nation were protesting that Zuma must go and Zuma must step down. And today we've got Cyril Ramaphosa, who seems to have been funded by white beneficiaries, rich white people who are benefiting and profiting from this country. Some who look like they were apartheid beneficiaries. Cyril looks like a puppet. When you look at his history and how he was funded by the Manel family, by the Oppenheimer families who were in mining, how he was catapulted to certain chairman positions, to certain directorships in companies. He looks like a puppet. And that's what it looks like. Zuma looks like he was fighting against these people for the black child. There's a lot of things Zuma got right. He got the ARV rollout right, which Thabo Mbeki was pushing back against. He increased funds for NSFAS. During his tenure, 2 universities were built, and other things. White people were not comfortable, and many black people were very happy about this because this is what they've wanted since apartheid ended. We would like the minority of white people are only 8% of the country, to be uncomfortable because we're an 80% black nation. These are the thoughts of these black people, and Jacob Zuma looked like the leader that was doing that. Unfortunately, he has been branded as corrupt. He's been branded as putting his friends first, the Guptas being one of the people, and many other black business people first. And with Cyril coming in, he's made sure that he's branded Zuma as having 9 wasted years of corruption and fraud, and all these people that were making money under Zuma's leadership and during his tenure have been blocked from accessing funding from various government agencies, from losing certain tenders that they had. That's the fight, majorly. Second aspect of the fight is the fact that 20 to 30 years after democracy, there are so many poor black people, so many unemployed black people, and black people, the unemployment rates keep going up. What we hear now is that we're at 52% unemployment. The narrow definition says we have 30% unemployment. And when you look at youth unemployment, which is from age 16 to 35, we've got a 74% unemployment problem. People do not have jobs. People don't have jobs, and they're angry and they're frustrated. And you've got COVID and you've got lockdowns where the people that hustle every day, who go and sell small things, who hustle small things, can't even do that because they're forced to stay home. Forced to stay home by a billionaire president, forced to stay home by other black people and other white people who have jobs, who can work from their homes on laptops because they have Wi-Fi, because they have electricity, because they have food in their fridges, because they can order food online via apps. Those are the people that are telling poor blacks who need to go out to make money to stay home. And it's unfair and it's frustrating people. What I find very interesting is that I was listening to a radio conversation this morning on Talk Radio 702. And the radio DJ, very unfortunately a black man, was saying that Zuma can't disrespect the rule of law. People can't disrespect the rule of law. We have a constitution and this is wrong and the state must respond. When he says the state must respond, it almost sounds like he's saying they must send out the army and send out the police to go and fight against these poor black people who are protesting. And this sounds very similar to what I've heard white people used to say during the struggle, when poor black people, struggling black people, were fighting to get Nelson Mandela out of jail. White people were saying these people are disrespecting and disregarding the law. The state must act. We are seeing Animal Farm in full play. We are seeing cognitive dissonance that Frantz Fanon speaks about from black people. Clever blacks who are comfortable, who have become complicit beneficiaries of apartheid, are now looking down on other blacks. If you're working for a big white company, if you live in the suburbs, if you're earning over 20,000 or maybe even over 15,000 rand a month, and you look at poor black people as lesser than, they should have worked harder. They should have been educated. No, these guys are corrupt and they're looters. It means you are no longer a black person. You are in effect a dark-skinned white person who is a beneficiary of white companies that became rich, or their funders or their investors or the people behind these companies became rich during apartheid, which was a crime against humanity. And the people that are protesting are not just protesting for Zuma. In the same way that during the struggle, people weren't just protesting for Nelson Mandela. There were so many other political prisoners. There were so many things that were wrong with the law at the time. Today, people are saying the Constitution is wrong. This Constitution that we're supposed to uphold and defend is being celebrated by the Western world because it's never held white people to account. White people were never stripped of the land that they took in an unfair way. White people have never had the economy that they've built of black sweat and black exploitation stripped from them. We must now respect this Constitution when it feels like it is attacking a black man who has been fighting for the black child. That's what's happening on the streets. The other very important thing is we need to sit. Again, I'm just reminded of the stupidity of people on Twitter and the stupidity of what we call clever blacks. There are two people that are out in the streets currently. There are protesters who genuinely and honestly want the country to change. They're unemployed, they're poor, they're hungry. They want things to end, they want things to get better. Then there are criminals. Criminals always exist. Criminals have been around during the struggle, before the struggle. Criminals are always there. And whenever there's chaos, even with fees must fall, the criminals see that as an opportunity to loot, to destroy, to burn. These are not good people, these are bad people. So when you're going to take a few bad people who are doing bad things and then use them to say all the protesters are bad, all the protesters are criminal, it means that you're stupid and you're ignorant and you're buying into media propaganda. It's almost saying all black people are protesters and all black people are looting. Imagine you being a good black person sitting at home, trying to follow the law, trying to do your job, trying to pay tax. And some media company says, well, black people are busy looting in South Africa. That's wrong. And that's the same thing you're doing when you're saying protesters are looting. Not all protesters are looting. Not all protesters are criminals. So you need to separate that. Very importantly, when protesters destroy stuff, and I had to learn this and humble myself, when protesters start burning stuff, it's because they've tried. They've tried speaking. They've tried begging. They gathered and they made threats about Zuma going to jail, and no one listened. So they are following through. If I've tried to go to the municipal offices, we don't have water, we don't have electricity, you guys are not picking up our refuse, and we do that week in, month in, year out. After 5 years of waiting, of begging, of being told, no, we're waiting for the budget, no, we're waiting for elections, no, we're just waiting for... After that long, you're like, you know what, we need to turn up the heat. And that's when you burn and destroy, because that's when the camera crews come. That's when they then send the premier, or they send the president, or they send the mayor. Because it's the only way they listen. Same thing that happens with the Western world and the colonizers from Europe. Some of these guys only understand violence and destruction. Similarly, when you look at our presidents, even though our presidents and our leaders and our ministers and our politicians, black as they may be, including Jacob Zuma, some of these guys only listen when there's violence. So when poor people get very, very desperate, they become violent. But you won't understand that if you're living a very comfortable life. If every time you put in an application, it gets listened to. Every time you phone or you tweet, you get a response and someone attends to you. You won't understand. The poor person doesn't have that luxury. I heard other people saying these people must just get lawyers and go through the systems. The system is corrupt, guys. The legal system in South Africa is not fair. It is not just. I just made examples now about the fact that white people that benefited from apartheid, racists, have never been held to account. Nelson Mandela and Desmond Tutu with their fucking bullshit Truth and Reconciliation Commission got white killers and murderers and looters off scot-free. To this day, there are black struggle veterans that are still languishing in prison that have never been freed. To this day, you can look it up. And then you want to tell us that the legal systems are free, are fair and they just. We've had judges that have been caught drunk. We know judges that have paid bribes. We know judges that have been violent with their wives. These are the people that you trust, human beings that are flawed. People that are paid a salary. People that are funded, that can be bought. Our legal system is not just. It cannot be called a justice system. Yes, it is a legal system, but it is not just. It is not fair. And people are fed up. People can't afford lawyers. I've been a victim of very, very verbally abusive judges in my life. I've watched people get sent to jail because there isn't a very good lawyer that's supporting them. People that are rich and powerful in this country can afford all the lawyers they want. Even someone like Jacob Zuma, who people are fighting for, the legal system has been kind to him over the years. He's had his arms deal drag on for so many years. He was acquitted of his rape case, which we don't know to this day exactly what really happened, but he was acquitted by the same legal system. His friend who was found guilty of corruption and fraud, Schabir Shaik, is walking free today because of the same legal system. Jacob Zuma has enjoyed some of the privileges of having money, of having power from this legal system. Today, obviously, it doesn't favor him, and we see his kids, Tutuzanu, Tutuzile, and other kids now fighting for him. His father, they were never around when other people's fathers were under attack. I don't remember them speaking out with the Marikana miners that Cyril was involved in. Cyril's never been held to account, nor were the Lonmin shareholders held to account for what happened at Marikana, to this day. But some of the clever blacks that are dumb, that follow media propaganda, will be like, no, we must respect our constitution. That's bullshit, man. And it just shows that you're stupid and you're ignorant and your mind is owned by media houses. Media houses and their journalists who are owned by the people that own those companies and fund them. Because those people are rich and they have agendas. Zuma tried to transform that as well because they had ANC, they had the New Age, which yes were Gupta companies, which then became Zwanele Mani companies, which then eventually collapsed, who were trying to come with an alternative voice. Yes, it was propaganda. Everything is propaganda. It's just a matter of which propaganda are you following, and does that propaganda do well for you and your family? Guys, your minds are not your own. Someone owns them out there, and you need to at some point take a deep breath and stop and think and follow the money. Who is funding this? What do they want out of this? And who is going to benefit if they get their way? If you do that every single time, you understand the agendas that are at play. I, for one, am trying very much to detach myself from this Jacob Zuma situation. But I'm just really, really upset by so many ignorant people who claim to be educated, who have masters and doctorates, and people who are journalists, celebrities who are influencers, that are out there pushing propaganda that they probably don't understand themselves because someone out there said that they must. When Uzweli Mkhize tells us, Uguti, this is what we must do as a country, it's not him. It's the World Health Organization. And the World Health Organization is not them. They are funded by Bill Gates and many other countries. Those countries that fund them are headed by certain people in those countries. Those people that are head those countries are funded by certain political campaigners and our campaign funders. And those guys benefit in one way or another financially through certain systems and how they work. But if you don't know that, you'll always stay ignorant. And you'll be like, well, he's got a doctorate, he knows. Well, he's a medical doctor, therefore he knows. No, he's a lecturer and a professor, he knows. Well, he's the president. Well, he's head of the World Health Organization. Everyone has got an agenda. It is all propaganda. But follow the money. Who is funding it? If they win, who will benefit? Will you benefit? Will your family benefit? Will your community benefit? If not, then you are following the wrong propaganda. Stay woke and stop being ignorant and question. Take a moment to just be a critical thinker and question, and don't follow rubbish news. Stay safe. Good luck. Jacob Zuma is 79 years old. I love the man very much for many, many reasons. I hate him for a couple of reasons as well. In Nkandla, I hate that there's been corruption around him. I know that he's been favored by the courts at some point. I know that some of these people have made money, etc. So I've got certain issues with Jacob Zuma. But as a black African man who has stood firm against adversity, who's tried to fight very, very strong systems even on his own, a very loving father, a very funny man, a very entertaining leader, and someone who looked like he was leading us and who felt like someone that we could follow. I love him very much. I'm sad that he's in prison. I feel that the law did him wrong. I feel like the law is still going to do him wrong. But yes, it is the law. He did break the law. And it's right that he's been jailed because that's what the law says. But I'm telling you that our legal system is not just. He's an old man. Let him go home. Punish him from home. Let him spend time with his kids. Let him carry on doing good work with the Jacob Zuma Foundation. And let's find better ways for our people. For the rest of black people, there are no jobs coming. Even if COVID ends, there are no jobs coming. There's robots. There's automation. A lot of our jobs get exported to places like India and China. If you guys are not buying from businesses that are local, that are creating local jobs, if you guys are not trying to work for people that have your interests at heart, then you guys need to move back to the villages. You need to build mud huts. You need to go back to subsistence living. You need to grow your own food. You need to stop chasing materialism. Switch off the TV. Switch off social media, because that's what's grinding you to chase a car, to chase certain clothing, to chase certain shoe brands, to chase certain energy drinks. You don't need all of that. Fundamentally, we're animals. We can live off water. We can live off fruit. We can live off vegetables. We can self-educate our kids. We can work the land. We don't need all this extra stuff that they're forcing you through advertising, through media propaganda that you need. You don't need a job. You can work for yourself and for your family. There are no jobs coming. So wake up, ask yourself questions, and be woke. This is Penuel the Black Pen. Have a great day and stay safe. I love you.